So Hirel, welcome to this debriefing session. And first of all, congratulations on scoring a 750. It's a pretty long journey from a 570. It's like 180 points improvement. Huge.
Thank you, Rajat. That's all possible thanks to you and your team.
Well, thank you for that praise. It's also a lot of it. 80% of it is your effort, is what I would say. It's your dedication. We were talking about it. The kind of work that you do professionally, the fact that you are a CFA and a CA, and then so taking time out to study for the GMAT. Excelling on verbal, going from that B26 to B41. It's like a 35th percentile to a 94th percentile, and also doing that Q50 from that Q40. It takes a lot of effort. So Hirel, let's talk about your first attempt. You said you took that in June of 2019. And how did you study for it? How long did you study for it? And then how did you feel going into the test?
Yeah, so how I studied for the June attempt, it was mainly from the OG. And yeah, it was just the OG and the MBA.com official mocks. There was no proper method used for adding. There was no proper method used in solving the questions. In my MBA.com test, I had not scored really well. So when I entered the exam, I was anyways worried, how will I cross 700 when I'm not crossing?
What were you scoring in their MBA.com mocks?
In my MBA.com mocks, it was around 620 to 640.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to make a note.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you went in there thinking that somehow 700 would happen. Now I want to ask another question. So you're someone who's, we're talking about, you're a very accomplished individual. You've done you said you did the joint CA-CFA. Now I don't know a whole lot about it, but it seems like you know how to excel in competitive tests. Why did you only do the OG? I mean, has that been your modus operandi till now?
No. So what had happened for GMAT is that all that I knew, because I had not researched enough, I had started studying only around 1.5 months before that. And that's why I took the OG as my Bible and assuming similar type of questions would come. The questions were of type, but the OG was not structured in a format in which I could distinguish that this is a question of this type or that is a question of that. And I had already booked my test date.
Okay.
So then I was in a situation where it was just go for the test, get the experience, and then figure how to improve from your own.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Just hold on one second.
Yeah.
Yes. So you did that, and then you purchased the e-GMAT course in September of 2019, but then you did not start studying till March of 2020.
Yeah.
Right. So when you started studying, how did you start? How did you structure your preparation? What did you do first? What did you do next? And what was the difference that you felt as you started?
I started with verbal and I started with the Master Comprehension course. After the Master Comprehension course, it went to the sentence correction course. In the comprehension course itself, because of the pause points, that when you're reading a particular sentence, you pause at this point, you pause here. That itself gives you such a good hang on the question and on what you're reading. It's the most basic step. And then once you come to sentence correction, I saw everything was structured, everything was the way I liked. It was at my convenience that I could study. I didn't have to study at a particular time. Everything was working out well. So that's how the tempo picked up in March. And then it continued after sentence correction as well.
And you said, after that shock of 560, the GMAT scared you in many ways. It's like you were underconfident and you didn't know if you could do it because that score was so low. So when you started with the Master Comprehension course and then went to the sentence correction, how did this give you more confidence, A, and B, how did it change your approach towards solving questions?
It changed my approach. It gave me a proper approach to solve the questions. This was an approach which would work because I was going on the meaning. I was going on the actual rules of grammar. It was very structured. I was following a set process.
Versus how was it when you studied the OG and when you
process?
So how would you approach a question then? I mean, you have to select an answer, right?
Yeah. So there were the set rules of grammar. So I didn't really, at that time, I used to feel that I need to solve sentence correction questions under 1 minute. and there was no talk time, which e-GMAT introduces you to. And then that's when I realized that once I came to e-GMAT, I realized I can distribute my time among sentence correction questions. I used to take 1.5 minutes for each sentence correction question, and I would to finish everything within that allotted time, because my CR was also 1.5 minutes.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
if you just go back, so but when you read through the OG, and the OG does have some grammar in there in the intro part,
Yeah.
right? Did you read that as well?
Yeah.
So, and then when you would solve those official questions, this was, June of last year or May of last year. How would you approach a question? I mean, I understand you had that 1 minute constraint, but how would you, or by the way, where did you get that 1 minute constraint from? Who told you?
It was reading. I don't remember how I got that 1 minute constraint, but I had that constraint.
Okay. So then how would you then solve an SC question in a minute?
Yeah, I would start reading the sentence, and the minute I would notice an error, say and also, I know that is redundancy. I would just try to use that one rule and eliminate the other answer choices.
Got it.
And reading the answer choices completely as well. In most cases, I would not have read them completely. In some cases where I could not eliminate only on the basis of that, I would have read some other answer choices. There was just no structure.
So then when you came and started using the e-GMAT method, how did this approach change? So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Okay, so the approach changed. First, I read the entire sentence. I understood what the sentence is trying to tell me. Then I understood read for the meaning of the sentence. If I would read an answer choice which says something else, that was the easiest way I found to eliminate an answer choice.
Change of meaning.
Yeah, change of meaning. Change of meaning was the easiest way to eliminate and the quickest way to eliminate an answer choice. And then after you read for meaning, you have the subject verb step, then you have the verb tense step, and you have the parallelism and all those steps. So the minute you start doing that, you notice all the possible errors which can be there and which you don't want your correct answer choice to have. So it becomes so much more easier for you to eliminate all the wrong answers, and you're left with just one answer, which you know is correct because all the other answers are eliminated. And
for solid reasons.
Yeah. And you read it as well, none of the errors are there in the correct answer choice.
Okay. And I mean, you scored a 94th percentile, so clearly you did versus a 30th percentile. So you clearly had a much better hit rate in SC overall. So now you had this meaning-based approach, and then you took this to CR. How did this impact how you approach CR versus how you did it earlier?
Yeah. So in CR, in a lot of questions, I realized after using the e-GMAT process, I was identifying the conclusion and the premise. Normally, what I would do earlier was only identify the conclusion and not the premise. Like if it is only because of a particular thing, like because the patients who are visiting the doctor has the percentage of patients have increased. So I conclude that the patients are all falling sick much faster. That given part, the premise part, I was not putting enough emphasis on, which is very important to solve a particular question, whether it's strengthen, weaken. And
so basically going through the author's thought process, the logical structure.
Exactly. And then evaluate questions, the yes or no and the variance test. That gave me enough confidence on solving any evaluate question which I could be given.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you able to apply pre-thinking?
Yes.
Okay, and I can see your accuracy in Scholaranium is excellent. So that's something which I mean, it clearly shows how well you did over here. So let's go over here. And then I was looking at this last 30 questions, really, really good accuracy. Medium questions, pretty good. Hard, excellent. These numbers are really excellent in SCCR and RC overall. So I mean, I am really happy to see that over here. So we are on Scholaranium. How did you use Scholaranium?
Okay, so the minute I finished my SC course, I emailed the team. And I told them that, okay, I finished my SC course. Now what are my next steps? So that's when they guide you through the cementing quizzes. And after the cementing quizzes, I moved on to my CR course. And yeah, and also there was the medium quiz and the hard quizzes.
Do you remember what did you score in the medium and hard quizzes?
In sentence correction, in medium quizzes, I had to score greater than 70%. And in medium
Yes.
quizzes, I
So,
did score around 70% in the first two. And
okay.
then I applied strategic review process, which itself made me more confident on everything which I had learned while doing the course. So in my third medium quiz, I had done much better. And then I had moved on to the hard questions.
How did the strategic review process help you?
Yeah, it makes you identify once you've decided on a set process, it's not necessary you will apply the set process the way you've decided it, because when you know you're being timed, you tend to overlook some steps which are very important and which actually save time. And think that they don't. So even though I knew how important meaning analysis was, initially I realized in my review that I was not doing my meaning analysis properly, because of which I started going wrong. And I was not following the set approach in that order. The first most important approach is subject verb and then verb tenses. All of that is what I started realizing in strategic review.
Got it. And I think this is where the fact that you do that self-evaluation, that introspection, when you look at, okay, this is how you should have done it, that is when you truly improve. I'm actually looking at certain instances of your improvement over here, and I'm going to point out a couple of them here. This is 8th of June over here. You took a hard cementing quiz. You scored a 40%. Okay. And I'm sure you would have done strategic review, because then after that, the CQ, the cementing quiz. On 8th of June itself, you took another hard cementing quiz and you scored 70%, which is incredible. I mean, that improvement without strategic review doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right.
Correct.
And that's for me is phenomenal over here. And so I think RC medium quiz again 69%, RC medium 62. So I mean, I see strategic review here. You in hard, you stumbled, you got 21%, but then you got back up the next day with 52% over here that you were doing. And over here, so from 12th to 14th of July, you were at 77% in RC, and which I
Yeah.
think is phenomenal. Now, I'm not looking at the other quizzes that you're doing, because I'm just filtered out cementing quizzes over here. But yeah, this is where I see a lot of good habits coming in to this.
Thank you.
So how did you use the solutions that we have in Scholaranium? Because you'd already gone through the course, you knew the process, but how did these solutions help you do that strategic review and improve faster?
There was one thing that which was told to me even in the email, that even if you get a particular question correct, still go through the solution. And I wanted to go through the solution after realizing a few times that the solution is exactly in lines with the way I'm thinking, and I need to make sure I'm not losing my thought process after getting it right the first time. That's what the solutions were always the best for. They follow the set method. They go stepwise, detailed. There's nothing which you can miss after going through the solution. And yeah, the solutions, I used to go through the solution for every question, even the ones which I got correct within the particular allotted time.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, that's dedication, is what I would say from your side. And we were talking about this earlier. I really like to see. I mean, you were doing very well. You took the exam on 4th of December, right? Or 3rd of
Yeah.
December, roundabout. And
Yeah.
when I see you took this verbal quiz, you bookmark 8 questions, you took all of these notes. Taking notes this late into your preparation, that's dedication. Many tenses understands which tense is appropriate for each of them. That of here, that is used as a pronoun and hence cannot refer to the to plural radiation levels. That's diligence. The ability to take these notes over here, that's incredible, Hirel, is what I would say over there. So let's talk about Quant. You also needed help because you're at a Q48. Which were the areas that you needed help in?
Number properties, geometry, and
Okay, and how did you go about doing that?
first I saw your webinar on number properties, and that's
Okay.
because I'm still doing sentence correction course. I had not yet moved to quants. We had a webinar that day, and I attended it. And when you were doing the factorization part where 2k where whether 2 is a factor of it and how you go about solving those particular questions. And I realized that is very different from the approach which I use. I set examples whether this works, does it break, the statement does it not break the statement. So I spent time over there. And I realized the kind of the way y'all had the verbal course structured, y'all had a similar quant course structured. So after I got done with my verbal, I started doing quant. And I might have done the number property lectures a lot of times, especially the factorization, the geometry, because those were my weak areas.
Got it.
Yeah. And those were the areas where you actually have to think and you can put examples and you can put situations and do it. And that actually takes a lot more time of yours.
That's true. Yes. So if you have built that fundamental approach, that helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's good. And again, I see good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm looking at your Scholaranium scores. Good scores is all I
Yeah.
would say.
My geometry scores would be weak first.
Okay.
Yeah. Because geometry, yeah. So after I went through the course, I went through it again because the initial phobia, okay, geometry is tough. I am bad at geometry, was still there. And what I while doing the course is that, okay, if you're given a triangle, if it's a right angle triangle, you have only two options, Pythagoras or the ratios of 30,
Yes.
60,
Yes.
45, 45, 90. So that started coming intuitively to me afterwards.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I see that. I see the scores over here, and I'm looking at last 30 easy. You've not done any, which is good. Medium, really good accuracy, and hard also good accuracy barring geometry, as you really said over here. But number property is pretty good accuracy. Algebra pretty good for 60% is really good. Word problems and advanced topics excellent over there. And the same thing shows up in all attempts as well. So you definitely had certain strengths. And then when I look at your Sigma X mocks, also, I mean, you took your last one uh, on 12th of November in already in that 730 range over there, so which is good. So this is good. Hirel, thank you for being such a diligent student. So let's talk about the support piece. You wrote to the support team multiple times. You also posted doubts on forums a few times.
Yeah.
So how did that help you?
The support team, when you write to them, the first thing you get to know is whether you're going in the right direction. And the support team, they will always review your performance, what you've been doing before sending your reply. I realized that the first time when I emailed them. So there was this time for sentence correction. They actually went through what I had done in Scholaranium and gave me steps, what to do ahead. Okay, fine, don't move ahead with this part again. Happened with CR. And then RC, towards the end, I realized I had a problem in RC because it was quite some time since I was giving the paper and when I had done the course.
You also scored a 710 in between, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But that was the online GMAT. And yeah. So that's around 2 weeks before that, I realized that I'm starting to have an issue in RC. And then I was given a detailed step-by-step process of how to go about resolving my issues in RC and how to do it.
And that helped on the actual.
Yeah, that helped a lot.
Okay. So that personalized
750,
feedback
yeah.
was very, very helpful. What about the forum support? You also posted your doubts internally in the subject matter forums, right?
Yeah, one thing, so I read a lot of the questions which were already posted as well. And over there, also you realize that, okay, fine, you've not thought of a particular question in this manner. So you could have also thought about this. And that's when the question which arises in your mind gets solved there itself by seeing the answer which was posted to the earlier person's question. And yeah, and even when I posted a question on the forum, I knew I would get a reply within a day. There was never a delay in the time in which I got the reply. And yeah, it just all helped and added up.
Got it. Perfect. So let's talk about this. So you were talking about, you say you want to be an equity analyst. And so the kind of schools that you were targeting, you said Columbia, Stern, and Wharton, of course, perfect schools to target overall. Your question really was, given the fact that the deadlines are coming around 5th of January, should you be applying this year or next year? You were in finance, right? So you know a strategic options approach.
Yeah.
So I would say do the same approach over here, where use the options approach, where in my opinion apply to a certain school that. So what you're trying to do is, in finance, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. In the same way, you don't want to put all your all your hopes on one round. You
Yeah.
want a certain validation of your application. So in my opinion, apply to a school or apply to two schools if you can find time that are not in your prime schools.
Okay.
Okay, but then one of them is ranked high enough that it's a good school. So for example, if you're looking at Columbia or if you're looking at Stern, then I'd apply to a Ross or a Kelly or Yale, for example. It's good high quality schools. I'm in the top 20, top 25, or even a Keenan Flagler. So what happens is this: your entire application gets vetted through
Got
that,
it.
and that way, uh, if you're really saying, okay, I'm applied and I got into Keenan Flagler, I know my application has a certain quality. There is
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah.
So I'd say apply to a school such as Keenan Flagler and apply to a school such as UC Irvine or one of the other tier two schools, or schools ranked 26
Got
to
it.
50 over there. So either way, you get feedback as a validation. Does your application have that quality? The application has that quality. You say, man, 70% of my work's done. I now put in the other 30%. But if you don't get into the high quality school that you apply to, you don't even get an interview call, then there's something amiss. You know the amount of hard work, the strategy you used is not working. You need to
Yeah.
change that strategy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so because you have you have a compelling GMAT score, you have that CA background, you worked at good company. So from a and you say you're going to get really good letter of recommendation. So you have all of those in place.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing to have the options approach now. I wouldn't apply to a Columbia or a Stern or a Wharton right now, but I would definitely apply to one of those schools.
Got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. Okay, or one of the other options is I would apply to a school such as Tuck, because Tuck always gives you feedback on your application. So even if they accept you, it's an amazing school to go to. But if they
Yeah.
reject you, they will give you feedback. So you use that feedback as a
Yeah.
school. So that's what my recommendation would be.
Yeah.
Okay. What do these schools look for? They look for two or three things. So one is they really say, okay, given who you are, what is the likelihood that you would become who you want to become? And in your case, that likelihood is very high. You're not really saying, "Hey, I'm someone who's who's basically a hardcore coder, and I want to actually become an equity analyst, or I want to become a stock trader." No, you're not saying that. You're really in the field. You have the right credentials. You have the right interest. Yours is a career progression story, which is a very good story overall. So I think it just makes sense for you to do this. Okay. Um, Actually, I want to go back. I want to look at Tuck once again. The Tuck recommendation is a great recommendation from a point that they give you feedback. The only thing is, I want to look at how many people go into financial services from Tuck. So if that's a significant number, I don't remember that proportion. Um, I don't want that to be a negative factor for Tuck over there for you. Let me just look at Tuck's employment report before we look at this. So you want to apply to a school where a significant number of people go into the financial sector.
Okay.
Okay, and 24% go from Tuck. We already have that number. So so you can really see this on our blog over here. So we have all of these stats on our blog as well that we keep on updating. So for
Yeah.
Tuck, it's financial services, and then I think by function, finance, you have investment banking is 8%, private equity, venture capital, and investment management. It's not a huge number is what I would say. That's kind of my concern. But IB, I don't know equity research if that goes into IB. It kind of doesn't in many ways. So I think that's the piece that I want to kind of guard against, because one of the things that they would really say is, even though you may be the right person, if they don't send a lot of people in that industry, they may not be very willing to take you. The fit
Yeah.
between, so you want to apply to a school where the fit exists, and it's a high enough school, and which is where I would look at function and industry both, and really say, okay, for example, if you were to look at the same thing for Stern, so I think you will. So yeah, that's something that I would want to do over here. Employment by function. So here again, you really see the biggest thing when it comes to employment by function is finance accounting. That's 30% of the class.
Yeah. Yeah.
So which kind of is very different from Tuck,
Yeah.
right? So that's where you want to find a school, so which has the fit, and which is where, if you go up, which is where we do this employment by industry and function separately over here. And you want to apply to a school where the employment by function exists.
Yeah.
Okay. Just 1 second. I want to just push my meeting off by, but I have a follow-on meeting that I think I want to make sure that I push it off by about 10 minutes or so. 25. All right. Yes. So what do these schools look for? Is they look for the fit, which we have talked about. The second thing they look for is, in your career, have you taken additional responsibility and have you made additional impact? So that's the second thing that they look for over there. If you can show that, and if through A, your essays, B, your letter of recommendations, I think you're golden. Okay. I would actually recommend, on our YouTube channel, we have 2 or 3 interviews by people from CBS. I'm looking of our former students, so look at how they position their candidacy. If you've not watched those interviews, Nishant, Ayush, I think there are 2 or 3 other people who are there.
Yeah, I've seen Nishant's interview. Yeah.
Not the GMAT one, the Columbia application.
Yeah, I'll see that one.
So we have about 4 interviews from finance focused schools where people have talked about their application. So B school experience ones. So yeah. So look at those and how they position their application. So I think that'd be good. Reach out to those people too. And I'm trying to get a couple of people. I don't know if you've seen Jim's interview. Jim Yee, who got 770. Is on.
Recently?
No. This is no. It was a year ago, which was last year. But he recently got into Columbia and GSB Chicago both.
Wow.
So I'm trying to get him to we have to schedule. He's agreed to come on. We have to find a time slot when I'm available and he's available, so we can talk about how we use that 770 score. How his background is very similar to yours. He's an accounting major. He's an actuary. So and so he's now gotten into these schools right now. So
wow.
So that'd be a very interesting one for you to attend as well. So yeah, I think those are pretty much answers all your questions now. Then
yeah, there are going to be a lot of emails from me still. Till I finish my entire application process.
I would say send them over if I can. I would. I mean, there's a point where answering those questions requires that I understand what you do, and which is where I think a point will come when a good admission consultant would come in. Now, I wouldn't recommend hiring a good admission consultant for this round, because there's no time. There's no time to do that over here. So I would not recommend that you do this in this particular round at all.